On a lonely stretch of sun-bleached highway, an elderly man rides a vintage motorcycle, calm, steady, as if he's been down this road many times before. But today, something is different. A sharp command halts him in his tracks. A police officer stands firm, finger pointed, eyes unwavering. Behind her, a line of uniformed soldiers watches in silence. Who is this old man? Why is he being stopped in the middle of nowhere? And what secret could he be carrying that draws both law and military to this forgotten road? This isn't just a traffic stop. It's the start of something far deeper, something that was never meant to be uncovered. Hello and welcome to Whisper Stories, where every tale we tell is wrapped in mystery, emotion, and unexpected turns. I'm your storyteller, and here we slow down time to explore the moments that often go unnoticed, the quiet scenes that carry loud secrets. In today's story, we find ourselves on a lonely country road. A bearded old man rides a vintage motorcycle like he's escaping the past or heading straight into it. But then a police officer stops him, not with panic, but with purpose. Behind her, a line of silent soldiers appear, watching, waiting. It feels like something big is about to unfold. Who is this man? Why is he being stopped? And what secret is hidden beneath this calm but tense encounter? Stay with me as we uncover the truth, layer by layer. If this story pulled you in, made you curious, or gave you chills, don't forget to hit that like button. Share it with someone who loves a good mystery, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Whisper Stories for more tales that whisper truths hidden in silence. Your support helps keep the stories alive. The old man didn't say a word. He turned off the motorcycle and slowly took off his helmet. His eyes were tired but sharp, like someone who had seen too much. He looked straight at the police officer in front of him. She was young, but something in her eyes showed she knew who he was. She wasn't just doing her job. This felt personal. She told him to get off the bike, her voice calm, but her hand stayed close to her weapon. The man obeyed. He moved slowly, carefully, without fear. Then from the trees, a group of silent soldiers stepped forward. They didn't speak. Their guns were down, but their eyes were alert. Then the officer asked one question, just one. Do you still remember Operation Black Hollow? The moment she said those words, the man froze. His face changed, as if an old memory had hit him hard. Something he thought was long buried. It was clear. This wasn't just a traffic stop. This was about something much deeper. Something from the past. Everything around the old man seemed to disappear for a moment. The quiet road, the soldiers, even the young officer, all faded. He was no longer in the present. His mind had traveled back many years to a time and place he had tried so hard to forget. It was deep in the jungle, during a secret military mission called Operation Black Hollow. The mission was meant to be quick and quiet. Go in, gather information, and leave before anyone noticed. But something went wrong. Very wrong. Someone had betrayed them. The mission turned into a nightmare. And his team, men he trusted with his life, started to vanish. Some were taken by enemy forces, some were killed, and some simply disappeared, never to be seen again. In the end, he was the only one who made it back alive. When he returned, he expected help, or at least understanding. But instead, he was met with silence and denial. The people in power claimed Operation Black Hollow never happened. They said he was confused, even unstable. They made him out to be a liar. With no one to trust and no way to clear his name, he disappeared from public life. He gave up everything and started over in secret, hoping to leave the past behind forever. But now, standing on this quiet road, it was clear that the past had found him again. The question that officer just asked, about a mission no one was supposed to know about, meant someone had been digging. And suddenly the old man realized, they didn't come here by accident. They came for him. But why now? And what did they really want? The old man looked at the officer closely now. Her face was calm, but her eyes held something deeper. Pain, maybe even anger. She took a slow step forward and spoke again, this time softer. Somberly, my father was on that mission, she said. The man's heart dropped. He felt a chill run through his body. He had heard that voice before. Not hers, but a voice like it. Back then, over the radio, just before everything went dark. He looked at her again, really looked this time. And now he saw it. Her eyes. They were just like her father's. Shocked whisper. "You're Captain Ellis's daughter," he whispered. She nodded. Her voice trembled slightly, but she stayed strong. Trembling voice. "They told us he died in a training accident, that there was no mission, no jungle, nothing. But I knew they were lying. I found old records, hidden reports, names crossed out, files marked as classified, and I found yours." She paused and took a deep breath. Determined. "So I followed the trail, every detail, every road, until it led me here, to you." The man didn't speak. For a moment there was only silence between them, a silence filled with years of buried truth, lost lives, and unfinished stories. Then she said the words he never expected to hear, firmly. "I don't want revenge, I want the truth." The old man took a long breath. His eyes looked far away, as if he were staring through the road, through the trees, back into the past. Somberly. "Your father was a good man," he said quietly. "One of the best. He saved my life. More than once." The young officer didn't move, but her eyes began to shine. She blinked quickly, trying to hold back the emotion. Urgent. "What happened to him?" she asked. "What really happened?" The old man looked down at the dirt, his voice low and steady. "They sent us in to gather intel, yes, but that was just the cover. The real mission was to destroy something. Something they said was too dangerous to exist. A village. A laboratory. I still don't know what it really was. Your father refused to follow the order. He said it wasn't right. He tried to stop it. And for that, they made him disappear." The officer's face changed. Shock, anger, and sadness all at once. "You mean they killed him? Our own people?" He nodded slowly. "Not with bullets, with silence. They erased him, and anyone who questioned it." Suddenly, the sound of a clicking radio broke the silence. One of the soldiers behind them spoke into his mic. "HQ, we've made contact. Standing by." The man and the officer looked at each other. For a brief second, there was only one shared thought between them. They weren't alone. And this conversation was not supposed to happen. The officer's hand moved away from her holster now. Not toward a weapon, but toward trust, toward the truth. "We need to leave," she whispered. "Now." The old man's eyes narrowed. He could feel it, the shift in the air, the moment when conversation turns into danger. He glanced over his shoulder. The soldiers were no longer just standing. They were moving, slowly, carefully, closing in, like wolves circling prey. Their rifles weren't raised yet, but their steps said enough. They had orders, and those orders didn't include letting this truth leave the road. "They're not here for a friendly chat," the man muttered. The officer nodded. "I didn't tell them everything. I thought maybe I'd have time." "You won't," he said sharply. "We have to go." Without waiting for a command, the man swung his leg back over the motorcycle. His hands moved quickly, years of habit returning like muscle memory. The engine growled to life. He looked at the officer. "You coming?" She hesitated just for a second. Then she turned, walked fast to the bike, and climbed on behind him. From behind, the soldier's voice rang out. "Stop! Step away from the vehicle." Too late. The old man twisted the throttle, and the motorcycle roared forward, kicking up a cloud of dust. The road ahead was narrow and cracked, but it was the only way out. Gunshots echoed behind them, not aimed to kill, just to warn. But warning shots could turn real at any moment. The officer gripped the man's shoulders tightly. Her voice was barely a whisper in his ear. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere the truth can finally breathe." They drove for a long time. The road twisted through quiet fields and small empty towns. The officer held on tightly, her heart beating fast. She didn't know where they were going, but she trusted him now. Finally, they turned off the main road onto a dirt path, hidden between tall trees. The motorcycle bumped along the rough trail until they stopped in front of an old wooden cabin. It looked like no one had lived there in years. The windows were dusty. The roof was starting to fall apart. But the old man seemed to know it well. "We used this place during missions," he said, "before everything went wrong." He pulled out a small key hidden in his boot and unlocked the door. Inside, the cabin was quiet and cold. Old maps, papers, and military gear were still lying around. On a small table was a photo, faded and worn. The officer picked it up. It showed a group of soldiers smiling, and in the middle was her father. "That's him," she whispered. "He looks so young." The old man looked at the photo too. "We all were," he said, "back when we believed we were doing the right thing." He lit a small lamp, and the cabin filled with a warm light. For the first time, they both felt like they could finally rest. But then, something strange happened. A dusty old radio in the corner, which wasn't even plugged in, suddenly made a crackling sound. A voice came through, quiet but clear. "Target has gone east. Possible hideout in Grid 6. Sending team to investigate. Use caution. Do not engage unless ordered." The officer looked at the man. Her face was pale. "They're coming here," she said. He nodded slowly. "They never stopped watching. We just didn't notice." The officer stepped back from the radio, her hand resting near her sidearm. "What do we do now?" she asked. The old man didn't answer right away. He was thinking, listening. He knew they didn't have much time. "There's someone who might help," he finally said, "but I don't know if we can trust him." Before she could ask more, there was a sound outside. A twig snapped, then footsteps, slow and careful. They both froze. The old man quietly moved to the window and peeked outside. In the shadows stood a figure, tall, in a black jacket, face hidden under a hood. He wasn't dressed like a soldier, but he moved like one. Then a quiet voice came from the other side of the door. "It's me, Raven." The old man's eyes widened. He turned to the officer. "He was one of us," he said softly. "Part of the Black Hollow team. I thought he was dead." The officer looked nervous. "So, can we trust him?" The old man walked slowly to the door. He didn't open it yet. "That depends," he said, raising his voice. "Are you here to help or to finish what they started?" There was silence outside. Then the voice replied, "I'm here because they're cleaning up loose ends, and you two are next." So the old man kept his hand on the door. He didn't open it yet. "Why now, Raven?" he asked through the wood. "Why come here after all these years?" The voice answered, calm and serious. "Because they're cleaning up the past. Anyone who knows about Black Hollow is in danger. That includes you, her, and me." The officer looked at the old man. "What does he mean? Cleaning up?" The old man's face was hard now. "He means they're not just watching us. They're planning to erase us, just like they did with the others." He opened the door, but just a little. Standing there was Raven, older and thinner than the old man remembered. His eyes were sharp but tired. His clothes were worn, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I've been running," Raven said. "They tried to get me last week. I barely made it out. I came here because I knew this place was still off the grid. But they're closing in." The officer stepped forward. "How do we know you're not leading them here?" Raven looked her in the eye. "You don't. You just have to decide if you want to run or fight." The old man stood quiet for a moment. Then he stepped aside and let Raven in. "We'll listen," he said. "But if you lie to us, even once, it's over." Raven nodded and walked inside. "Fair enough. Now lock the door. You need to hear what they're really hiding about Black Hollow." The door was locked. The three of them sat around the small wooden table. The lamp flickered, and outside the wind blew through the trees. Raven took a deep breath. His hands were shaking a little. "You both need to know the truth," he said. "Black Hollow wasn't just a mission, it was an experiment." The officer frowned. "What kind of experiment?" Raven looked at her. "They were testing something, a gas, something made in a secret lab deep in the jungle. It could change how people think, control them, make them follow orders without question." She looked shocked. "Mind control?" Raven nodded. "Exactly. Your father, he found out. He saw what they were doing to innocent people, villagers, even some of our own men." The old man's face grew pale. "We were told it was just intel gathering, but I remember now, people were sick, afraid. Some couldn't even speak. We thought it was a disease." "It wasn't," Raven said. "It was the gas, and they planned to use it in other countries. quietly, without anyone knowing. The officer sat back, her mind spinning. So they killed my father because he tried to stop it? Raven looked down. Yes, and now they're making sure no one ever finds out. The room fell silent. The old man stood up slowly. Then we can't run anymore, he said. We need to expose the truth. Raven looked up. We'll need help, people we can trust, and we don't have much time. The officer nodded. Let's finish what my father started. The officer rolled out an old map on the table. Raven pointed to a spot deep in the mountains. There's someone there, he said. A journalist. He's been hunting this story for years. If we get to him, we can finally tell the world what really happened. The old man nodded. He's our only chance. They packed fast. Just the most important things. Papers, the photo, the map, and the USB drive with the proof Raven had stolen from a government base. The officer stepped outside to check the road. The sky was dark now, and the trees swayed in the wind. Then, she froze. A red light blinked in the woods. Then another. Tiny lasers moving silently across the trees. Snipers. She ran back inside. They're here! Before anyone could speak, the window shattered. A smoke bomb rolled across the floor, hissing loudly. The room filled with thick, white fog. Move! Raven shouted. They kicked open the back door and ran into the night. Bullets hit the side of the cabin. Flashlights danced in the trees. Voices shouted, Target is escaping! Repeat, targets are escaping! They ran downhill through the thick brush, hearts pounding. Behind them, the safe house, the last place of peace, was burning. The officer gasped. They want to erase everything, even the proof. The old man didn't stop running. Then we make sure they can't. They ran through the night, climbing hills and crossing rivers. By morning, they reached an old radio tower deep in the mountains. It was quiet. No guards, no cameras, just the sound of birds and wind. This is the place, Raven said. The journalist waits here. He uses the tower to send secret messages. He's careful. Smart. They stepped inside. The building was small but clean. There were books, wires, and computers with glowing screens. On the desk sat a man in his 40s, wearing glasses and a worn-out jacket. He looked surprised, but not scared. You made it, he said. The officer stepped forward. Are you Mark Decker? He nodded. I've been digging into Operation Black Hollow for years. I thought I was the only one who cared. Suddenly, the sound of a helicopter filled the air. Outside, black trucks rolled up the dirt road. Soldiers jumped out with rifles. The old man grabbed the radio. They're surrounding us. We have one shot. Can you send the files before they break in? Decker nodded fast, typing quickly. Almost there. Hold them off. The officer loaded her gun. We came this far. We're not backing down now. The sound of boots hit the ground outside. The cabin shook as soldiers surrounded it. Decker kept typing fast, sweat on his forehead. Uploading now. Just a few more seconds. The old man grabbed a rifle from the wall and handed a pistol to the officer. We hold them off, no matter what. Raven looked out the window. They're moving in. 3 on the left, 2 by the tower. Suddenly, bang! The door shook. Someone tried to kick it in. The officer shouted, We don't have time, just send the file. Decker shouted back, It's at 80%. Almost done. The old man fired a warning shot through the wall. Screams outside. Then more gunfire. Cover the back, Raven yelled, running to block the rear door. The officer knelt near the window and fired 2 quick shots. She wasn't aiming to kill, just to slow them down. They needed just a few more seconds. Decker's voice came through, filled with hope. 95, 96. Then, crash. The back door burst open. Smoke filled the room again. The old man ran toward the soldiers, shouting, Get the truth out! I'll hold them! The officer tried to stop him, but he was already gone, disappearing into the smoke. 100%, Decker yelled. It's done! The files are out! The world will know! The officer grabbed Decker's arm. We need to go! Now! Together they climbed through a hatch under the floor, a secret tunnel Raven had found earlier. Behind them, the cabin filled with noise, shouting, gunfire. But they kept crawling forward into the dark. As they reached the end of the tunnel, the officer looked back. She didn't know if the old man made it out, but she knew one thing for sure. The truth was finally free. 1 week later, the video files, photos, and secret documents were everywhere. On the news, across the internet, even in front of government buildings. People were shocked, angry. Protests filled the streets. Reporters asked hard questions. Leaders were forced to respond. Operation Black Hollow was no longer a secret. The officer stood on a hill outside the city, watching the headlines scroll across a big screen. Truth leaked from hidden military file. Whistleblowers risked everything. New investigation opened. Raven stood beside her, arms crossed. "We did it," he said, "but this is just the start." She nodded slowly. "What about him?" she asked. There was silence. Then Raven pulled something from his pocket, a small burnt piece of cloth. It was from the old man's jacket. "He bought us the time we needed," Raven said, "and he knew what it would cost." The officer took the cloth gently. "He was a hero. My father would have called him a brother." Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It simply read, "They were only the first. More are coming. Be ready." She stared at the screen, then looked out over the city. "The truth is out," she said quietly, "but the war for it has just begun." And so, the truth was finally free. But every truth comes with a cost. Some pay with silence, others with their lives. This was just one story, one shadow pulled into the light. But in the dark corners of power, how many more are still waiting to be found? If this story gave you chills, if it made you think, then imagine how many other secrets are still out there. Thank you for watching Whisper Stories, where the quiet voices tell the loudest truths. If you want more mystery, more hidden truths, and stories that stay with you long after they end, like, share, and subscribe. Because some stories deserve to be heard, even when they whisper.